Sujit, why don't you put on mute?
Naveen sir, please start.
Yes, very good morning to all of you. Namaskaram. Myself, Dr. Naveen. Warm welcome to all of you. We are with Subhas Mandal and a couple of student volunteers, Ms. Anusa and Ikant, who are coordinating this session. And we have a strong support from our COMSOC team, Dr. Ganesh and Dr. Dilip, Mahesh. They are here with us to support this event. And on behalf of entire team of COMSOC, we welcome you for this session. If you remember, in the last Saturday, we had a great session on how to deal with emotion, and we told you that we will come up with another very interesting session on this Saturday. And therefore, we have very interesting session today on IP, how to write your first patent. So on behalf of our entire team of COMSOC, we welcome you to this session. We welcome our Samsung team. So we have with us the expert from Samsung, Mr. Sujit. We have Nilamani. We have Vivek. And Lakshmi would be joining possibly, and this team is led by Dr. Alok Nath De, CTO Samsung. He is not only leading this Samsung team, but he is leading the entire COMSOC team as well, because he is a chair of COMSOC Bangalore. So under his we this session is being organized, and he is with us today. We believe in the last session we had over 300 participants, and we got a very positive feedback from 250 participants who given the feedback for 9.3 out of 5. So hopefully you will be enjoying this session today as well. When I talked to this team, they said that this patent writing is as good as you are publishing a paper in academic environment. However, we find that this is really difficult for us in the academic environment, but they say it is very easy. So let us see from them and listen from them how it is easy and how we all can work out and file a patent. Hopefully, we are very positive that towards the end of this session, you will be having some idea and you will be having some write-up and be confident so that you can file a patent. So with this small note from our entire team and coordinators, we welcome you to this session. So I won't take much time. I will hand over this podium to Dr. Alok Nath, CTO Samsung and COMSOC Chair. So thank you very much once again, and welcome the entire team of Samsung for this session. Over to you, Dr. Alok Nath. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Naveen. And thank you all for joining this morning. It's a Saturday morning, and what I hear is about
I think his voice has gone off. Dr. Alok, I think his voice is not audible. Are other people are listening?
No, we cannot hear him.
Yeah. So yeah,
we're not able to hear him.
Audience, please for a while before we get him back.
cells that So sorry about the glitch. And we did not stop our technical forums, our online collaborations, the virtual forums and video conferencing in various ways. So in last few sessions, we have covered various aspects of 5G, the technologies underlying 5G, the AI and ML in 5G, the software-defined networking, the virtual functionalizations, lot of sessions that we have done on the advanced communications. We also introduced concepts like quantum computation, computer vision in the autonomous car. So alongside a lot of technical sessions, we have been able to do, as Dr. Naveen said last week, we covered how to nurture career amidst adversities during pandemic. And if you have not been able to join, we have the video link. I invite you to see that. How to make sure that you are stout in this environment. We also have done a lot of grade 7 like PhD and master's thesis presentations and student programs. So today we are again excited to have this particular program. Last 2 years, there are some research methodology program that Dr. Naveen started, and now it has become very popular, how to write papers and good papers and different ways of conferences, journals. How do you take that? So since that has become popular and you all know how to write papers, and that is a first and foremost thing in the academic world, people look into it. But in the industry world, we also value this intellectual property. So today, again, on behalf of IEEE, on behalf of Samsung, we are very pleased to be here and talk about this intellectual property, how to write your first patent. So if you have been already writing, fine, great, you might get some tips. But if you are not writing, hesitating, we will take off some of those hesitations and then make sure that you take the first steps towards filing. Let's go to the next slide, which talks about why patent creation is important. But let me tell you, as I was telling, academia and the university, that community versus industry, startups, when you take this community, there's a little bit of difference. The difference in academia, you will think paper first. Maybe these days people are starting to think about patents, and you never build full solutions. You always work on a prototype and POCs and then partner with someone. Some commercializations are happening these days, which is very heartening to see. But in company, you have to make business. And so solutions come first. And then you talk about patents because you need to protect your intellectual asset. And then comes paper, as a supporting things. If you have done great job, why not also publish? So important thing to note is that, we have a lot of tangible assets. You have a home, a house that you buy, your parents are buying, you have a car. These are very tangible assets. So we value what we see, we value, right? But what we don't see, we also need to see, can you objectively quantify that? And I would make the MasterCard advertisement very famous. Some things are priceless. That's on the other side of it. Your love, affection, relationship are very priceless. But between that priceless and the tangible assets, there is something in between. And patent probably falls somewhere in between. This is an intangible asset. This is not in the heart, but on the head. And if we can capture, we can create, an asset out of that will become visible, that will be utilized. So yes, as I said, the merits of paper publication, you network, you knowledge share, but patent captures your creativity dimensions. And organizations and businesses are dependent on sales of products and services. Now, when you look into this, we also think that, the innovation part is very much required for competitiveness. Because there are standards in telecom world. 3GPP is defining 5G standard. There is Wi-Fi standard. There is Bluetooth standard. And everybody needs to follow that, because if you're not interoperable, then it's a problem. Because if I buy somebody's network, doesn't mean I have to take from the same company mobile, right? They should be able to talk to each other. So standards on one hand make sure that you interoperate and you comply with some things that everybody is following. But then two things happen around that. First of all, while defining standards, many companies are participating and they have their royalties, they have their IPs, and they contribute into that standard making. It doesn't happen just like that. It's a lot of companies that are sitting together under many work groups, and then they bring that intellectual part and make sure it gets as a one component into that standards. Yes, they may get some royalties, but there are norms when you are contributing into standard. How much you can charge, not charge, because it should be affordable to all. That there is governance, and we are not talking about that. But definitively, within standards, there are contributions made by companies and academicians, and they become part of integral elements of that. The other dimension is, now that you have done standards and everybody is following that standards, then what do you add as a company? You can still innovate. You can follow that standards, but around the standards, you can build a lot of elements that is innovative, that is not violating the standards, but you can do. For example, if you have to do a scheduling algorithm, it says what it needs to communicate to the upper layer of communication. But the exact scheduling algorithm, if you have an AI-based algorithm, somebody is doing a threshold-based versus an AI-based, it is your choice to do that. And this is where companies are bringing their competitiveness, and it's a topic of its own. And we will talk maybe in the next round of our patent discussions. But today, I think this is good enough to go. So if you go to the next slide, Sujit. So intellectual property protects the innovation and creativity, and patents are key assets in the intellectual property of organization business. There are different companies. We just showed that top patent recipients for 2019. Patents have to be in different countries. There are US markets, so patents are linked to that. There is Europe PCT filing, there is India market. So that's, again, it's a bit more elaborations, and we might be able to touch few points. But this is a global kind of snapshots that who all are filing a big number of patents, even in US and globally. So Samsung has been one of the big patent filer. It shows how do they from Samsung. If you see today's Times of India, that we have made a PRISM program with student engineering colleges, preparing and inspiring student minds. And last 1 year or so, we've been doing with top, selected, not top, but selected engineering colleges around Bangalore, Chennai, this belt. And we have announced that we would like to take it up to many engineering colleges, about 50 or so by 2022. And if students and faculties are working together and with us, then even patent filing, that's the title of today's headline. And you can see that more, and you can join from Samsung's standpoint. But coming back to IEEE and today's conference, we'll focus on samples that are taken from various sources, not just from Samsung, but in simple way, simple problems that you can relate to, not necessarily very complicated ones, but everybody could relate to those problems and how to build that, why somebody thought that way, how did that first thinking come, and if somebody has done once, does it mean there is no more scope for innovation? yeah, there is a scope. And so Sujit and Nilmani will present in details how those examples are coming. So let me conclude my part of it by saying that, again, listen very carefully, and we will have few assignments at the end for you. And patent writing is fun. It is capturing your innovation and creativity. And we will have a kind of 3 sessions that we are planning. Today's is how to write the first patent. We will have a very closed door or invited kind of event, possibly in a registration manner, on how to write valid patents, and the next level of things, good patents. And we will have industry-wide other speakers to talk about that. And then maybe if needed, if there is enough excitement, we can also look from a little bit of legal, how to file the patent. There is a little bit of difference between the English way of thinking or your vernacular way of thinking, but how to capture it, it has to be a legal document, and obviously lawyers help in that translation. But today we would not go into that. That can be a separate discussion with some of the patent lawyers, so that, again, when you are ready with this idea, possibly we can see how to help you out to, file it accordingly. So with that note, I hope you have understood the basics of it, why patent creation is important for organizations, for countries. And India is looking forward to be innovative, be more creative, and file more patents from the country, not just filing in other countries, but in our own countries. And we would help in that journey from IEEE, from Samsung programs, and we will include many other companies if they come forward to support the student and young researchers. So with that note, I will hand over to Sujit and take it forward for rest of the program along with Nilmani. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alok, for setting the tone and giving a flavor of what is going to happen in the next 1 hour and more. To go through the agenda just quickly, we'll be seeing what is a patent. We have heard a little bit about patent, the word patent, but what is a patent? We've also heard protecting inventions. What kind of inventions can become a patent? What is patentability? Next, you have to come up with an idea. Now, how can we be creative and come up with an idea? That is another topic that we'll be going through. Now, is it just enough if you have an idea? How do we convince someone that the idea is beyond something that is already there and it is beyond obvious? How can we say that our idea is inventive? This is the overview of the topics that we'll be going through in today's sessions. Now, just to give a glimpse of what is a patent, we'll not be going through in detail, but just to understand, we have to understand that it is a legal document for protecting an invention. That means invention is a creation of human intellect and it has to be protected. Just like you have your house, which has a property sale deed, which says that you own the house. Same way, you need to have a document which says, this is my invention. So it is first of all, it's a very personal document, which means that you have complete rights over the inventions, which means you can control who can make, use, or sell your invention. Not only that, it is valid for 20 years from the time of filing the patent. Now, patent, what you can see here, these are certificates that you get from government organizations. So in India, you have the Indian Patent Office. In US, you have the US Patent and Trademark Office. And in Europe, you have the European Patent Office. And they all give certificates which says that this is your invention and this invention belongs to you. Now, like you can see, patent has to be filed in each country wherever you wish to enforce it. Now, let's go through what ideas are patentable. How do we check? I have an idea. Now I have to see whether it is patentable or not. How can we check by ourselves? This is more of a self-check you can do actually to see if the idea is patentable. First, it has to be novel. Novel means what? It should not be known at all in public domain. You can check this by doing internet search, by checking patents itself, existing published patents, Google patents you can search for. You can check for white papers to check if your idea is actually new or known before in public domain. Even blog posts, even discussion forums, people where they discuss on code, problems, even those can be considered for checking if the idea is known or not before. Next, utility. Utility means the idea has to be useful. It has to have an industrial application, which means the idea has to have some significance when it is applied in an industry. Next is what is called as non-obviousness. Now, this is a subjective matter. It depends on case-to-case basis. We'll be going through many examples today to show how we can see that the idea is not obvious and what is called as inventive step exists in the idea to make the idea patentable. In addition, there are some matters which cannot be patented as such. But inventions which are relating to plants, animals, some things which are relating to atomic research, all of this is not patentable. Now, this is just an overview to give you a flavor of what can be patented. Now, we saw in the earlier slide, what is obviousness? Obviousness is an important criteria for patentability. If your idea is performing almost the same function as what is already known, then the idea is considered as obvious. Which means what? It is the same output, you have the same input and the same output is achieved with no significant increase in efficiency or speed, then it will be considered as obvious. There is very small difference over what is already known. If you are only adding a small step, what can be referred to as very micro incremental, then also the idea may be considered as obvious. Now remember, like I said, many of these are subjective in nature. It will depend on a case-to-case basis, and with the examples that we will be giving, it may be a little more clear on what can be considered as obvious. Mere different way of doing a known thing, which means something is happening already, you are just doing a workaround by which you are achieving the same objective with the same efficiency, with no difference that is very visible. Then also it may be considered as obvious. If you are simply combining, or what is called as mosaicing, which means you know that many things are already known, you're simply combining many things to give nothing surprising. So, if you see the result, there is no wow factor in it. It is very predictable. Anyone will know that when you combine these known things, the result is going to be known. Then also it may be considered as obvious. Now I hand over to Neelmani, who will be talking on how to come up with an idea and how to think creatively. Over to you, Neelmani.
Thank you, Sujit. Good morning, friends. I hope now you have some idea on what a patent is, some basic criteria related to it, and why it is strategically important to protect your idea. But you might be thinking how we can come up with an idea which can be patented. Because to create an idea or to come up with a solution, you need to first find out a valid problem statement. So the question is, how to come up with a problem statement? An easy answer to this can be, just look around yourself, the world, the objects around you. Real world problems stimulate new ideas. And with these new ideas, people have been creating useful solutions since past so many years. So let's see some problems that I'm sure you all have faced. So we'll just see some very basic problems that we all face in our daily lives. And I'm sure that even you would have thought to find a solution to them. So let's check out some of the examples that we have for you. Mobile phone displays. Yeah, we all know that displays tend to break. So how many of you are looking at your phones right now and it's shattered display and thinking that, oh, maybe if something could have been done to protect it from getting damaged? And maybe you would have thought that I have an idea whether it can be patented or not. So many doubts related to this. Let's see how people have tried to solve this to protect their phones from getting damaged. So if we see a first patent, so it talks about that whenever your phone is falling, like some protective mechanism in the phone will detect that there's a sudden fall in the phone, and then it will make some shift in the orientation of the device. We know that whenever a phone is falling, high chances that it may fall on an edge. So if it falls on an edge, high chances that the screen will get shattered because the impact will be high. So this patent says that the orientation will be changed so that the phone falls flat, maybe on the back side, so that the impact is minimized. Agreed? Maybe the damage will be less, but then this solution doesn't guarantee that the mobile will be fully protected, right? So it's not an optimum solution. So what can be a better solution than this? Let's look at a second example. So have you guys seen how when a vehicle crashes, suddenly airbags open? It has a high chance of saving your lives or getting you injured. So similarly, this patent took an idea from there that whenever the phone detects or identifies that it is falling, there is some mechanism in the phone that will open the airbags or the dampeners before it falls on a surface. So if I compare this with the previous solution, with this solution, there are high chances that the phone will be protected. So this is certainly a better solution than the previous one, right? What next? There are issues with this solution also. So imagine if the surface is uneven, so then this method may also not work. So just think if you can come up with a better solution, which can be better than the two examples that we just saw. And at the same time, it should be practically feasible because the solution has to be implemented in the mobile phone. And mobile phones are meant to be handed by the hands or kept in the pocket. So in this way, people keep on building one solution after the other, just improvising it and making it better for the people and the society. Now let's move to a second solution, second example. Low battery issues. This also is one of a very big challenge that we face today. Friends, these days mobile companies are coming up with 4500 mAh batteries, 5000, even 6000 mAh batteries. But then I'm sure you all will agree with me that for a heavy user, even if the battery is 6000, 7000 mAh, for a heavy user, it won't sustain more than 10 to 12 hours of heavy usage. And then this problem is really big if you are traveling and like the power point or the charging is not readily available. So then how to solve this issue? Because we tend to play our games, stream our favorite SD content, and we need the power at all, like every time, readily available. So how to solve this issue? This is a big problem, and a solution is like everyone will want a perfect solution to this. So what if I say you that you can borrow a charge from your friend's device? Isn't it a great idea? Like just like money, you borrow a charge from your friend. So let's see some examples. So first time when someone proposed of sharing a charge with your friend or from a neighboring device, how they did was using a cable or some wire, you can connect your device to the other device and you can charge your device. You can share the charge from the first to the second device. At that time, maybe this was good because before this, maybe there was no charge, no mechanism to charge your phone from other device. But then you can see there are limitations. There are certain limitations to this solution, that your movement is limited by the length of the cable, and you cannot be really mobile. You cannot be free. As an advancement to this solution, people then made wireless charging. So wireless charging like improves your life, makes it better than what we were achieving with the wired cable. So the second example says that you can just keep your phone near to a second device and your phone or your device will get wirelessly charged. Better than the first solution, agreed. But then this also has the limitation that the second device has to be somewhat in a nearby range to the first device. So though this example is working fine, perfect, and then in the markets also you must have seen this solution getting commercialized by many companies. But it has its own limitations that you cannot move beyond a certain range. So then what can be a better solution to this? A better solution can be, we all know Wi-Fi, right? How Wi-Fi works. You roam inside your house or within a premises, and then you're always connected to the network. Similarly, if I say you that you keep on roaming using your phone inside the premises, inside a building, and then your phone is automatically getting wirelessly charged. Right? Sounds great, right? You need not be in a certain range or like limited by the length of the cable. So this is something that is advanced than the second solution. Although this has already been patented 5-6 years back. But if you see how the first solution was first made, then improvement on that solution was made. Wired was changed to wireless. Then people are working on how to increase the area or increase the range within which you can move within that wireless connection. So people are coming up with better and better solutions, improvising one over the other. Now we'll see the next example.
Now, you can also find problems which are all around you. In the sense, you see many people taking selfies. What's the problem with taking selfies? Why do people take so many selfies? Because you want the best display picture for your Instagram or for Facebook. But what happens is, a person does not take just one photo. He always takes many photos. And although your phone may have very high memory, generally gallery is the one that gets filled quickly. You have WhatsApp photos, you have your own photos, so many photos that get filled in your gallery because of so many photos that are clicked. Person is never sure of what is the best photo. He looks at the photo, clicks the photo, then again looks at the photo to check if it is actually good. He feels no, it's not so good, then again takes a second photo. Minimum 5 to 6 photos are taken for the purpose of setting a display picture, which means a profile photo. It could be for your Instagram, it could be for your Facebook, it could be for your WhatsApp. But the problem that it leads to, and which you will actually see, is that your gallery gets filled with photos of the same person, slightly in different poses. You might have taken at that time because you felt that one photo was not good. But over a period of time, what happens is your gallery gets filled with many photos which are similar to each other, but you would have chosen only one photo from there. What happens to the remaining? It simply eats your memory. It fills up your memory. Your memory gets full very fast. This is a problem. How can you solve this problem? If you were to do just an internet search as to check what is photo quality, why is it that people take so many photos? Because they doubt. They have a doubt in them that the photo is not of the best quality. But your phone is a processing device. It can process by itself and check what is the quality of the photo. you'll find many techniques which talk about finding the quality of photo, checking different parameters. Like, if have you closed your eyes? Are you looking away from the photo? Is there, has your camera shaken too much while taking the photo, because of which the photo is blurred? The object, the main object, when I say main object, it could be the face, it could be a scenery that is not in focus, then also the photo quality is low. These are all parameters that are well known for knowing whether the photo quality is good or not. Now, let's say if we were to provide a solution by which in real time, when I am clicking a photo itself, I click 10, 15 photos in one shot. If the phone were to tell me that out of the 10, 15 photos that I've taken, this is the best photo, where I'm looking at the camera, I have not blinked also, I am in focus, and this is the best photo. The rest of the photos are not good, you can delete it. Won't that be a nice solution? People will actually like the solution, and they would actually be, this company has this solution, I would want to buy this mobile because it has a solution. I will not have the trouble of clicking so many photos. Now, this is one way by which you can see that there is a problem, you have tried to solve the problem intelligently. Now, remember, it is simply selecting the best photo. Now, what if that is not enough? Simply selecting the best photo is not enough. You want the phone to do much more than that. You want the phone to make the photo even better than what it is. People actually, what do models do? They take a photo, then there is a lot of Photoshop that is done on it, and then they get a lot of likes on Instagram. You would want a similar experience if you could get the same experience on your phone also. Wouldn't that be nice? You can build on top of the previous idea and know what is there already. In artificial intelligence, there are different techniques by which you can use machine learning to make the photo better. You can remove wrinkles. If there are blemishes or some marks on the face, they can be removed. And such techniques can be automatically applied to make the photo much better. And also, you can also give this information to cosmetic companies and find out what kind of solutions are desired by the user, which can be a good input for cosmetic companies. That actually becomes a new service altogether, a new revenue stream. It leads to new businesses. That is one way another way you can think of to creatively solve a problem and then come up with new solutions by building on top of something that is already known.
Next example that you see is also a very basic one, facing connectivity issues. So we all want good network coverage, right? We have been complaining that this company is good, that company is bad. The internet of this company is really fast. The coverage of this company is really good. So though we all are talking of 5G these days, but still you all will agree that in some areas we still face some basic connectivity issues. Calls are getting dropped. Web page is not getting loaded. Even basic video is not getting streamed. Forget HD, right? So how to solve this very basic requirement of today's life, and specifically the digital India that we are talking about? How to increase the coverage and throughput of a user? So 15-20 years back, we all used single SIM phones. Then someone came out with an innovative idea that what if I use a dual SIM mobile? Dual SIM mobile, we all know, has 2 different subscriptions from 2 different service providers. So at least to some extent, we can say that using 2 SIMs or 2 service providers, I can somehow cover up the issue of network coverage. Maybe one network is good in my college, one network is good at my home. So in this way, I can cover up the connectivity issues, right? Worked for some time, but then my throughput, my data requirements were not satisfied, because We all know that dual SIM phones have their own issues, that they have to share the same radio within the two service providers. So what can be a better solution to this? But after dual SIM phones. So till now, we were only connected to one interface, whether it was Wi-Fi or whether it was 3G, 4G. But what if I say you can connect your phone to two different networks at the same time? At one time, you are connected to 4G, and at the other, simultaneously, you are connected with Wi-Fi also. Or maybe 4G plus 5G. 5G plus 5G means you are connected to two different networks at the same time. So this is really great, right? Instead of connecting to one network, I'm connected together, like simultaneously at one time, I'm connected to two networks. So my throughput will definitely increase, as well as the surety of my coverage will also increase. I can use my second network as an add-on, as a booster, as a relay to increase my download speeds or whatever work I am doing. So the first issue or the primary issue that we're dealing in this example, the connectivity or the throughput, with the use of this dual connectivity, I can say, has been solved to some extent. But then once I have solved, or if once the industry has tried to solve this issue, the industry started facing a new set of issues. Like if you are using two networks together at the same time, your phone is that much only, right? The phone that was 20 years back, the design, the form factor, everything is that much only. Max, you can increase the processor, you can increase the battery, but that also to some extent. So now the phone that was initially made to work for a single network, now we have made that much advancement that it can work on two networks. A new set of issues are coming in the phone. What are those issues? My phone is getting heated up now. My battery is also draining faster. So now you see, at one time I'm trying to solve one set of issues, and on the other hand, new set of issues are emerging. So one problem, once it is solved, is giving birth to a new problem. And in this way, industry keeps on moving. One use case becomes problem statement for the other use case, and that's how patents are created. Innovative thinking is done. Let's move to a next example. Your device getting stolen, you are like forgetting your device somewhere, not able to find. This is also a very basic problem. So all the examples that we saw, starting from the screen getting damaged, then the connectivity issues, or identifying a best selfie. So all are what you see are very basic. We daily feel those issues. We can feel they are very close to us. And then we wish that, oh, is there a great solution to this? So this particular example, if we see device getting, you are forgetting your device getting lost. So the problem here is to identify where the device is right now, or who has taken my device. Because once you lose it, many a times you don't have any clue where the mobile phone is. So how to identify where the device is? What will you do? So some early solutions, how industry solved it 20 years back was, whenever someone who took your phone tries to change the SIM, you will get a notification that someone is trying to access your phone. And with that notification, some coordinates will come, like some location, some rough location, approximate location, with the help of which you can find, okay, my phone is in this XYZ area. But then it is not sufficient. You'll just know that, okay, someone is having my phone and some rough coordinates. But I'm sure with this much information, it's not really possible to identify where the phone is. What next? So then someone thought, why not, if with this notification, I add the photograph of the person also who is right now handling the phone. So that's a much needed value addition, right? With the notification, you're also getting some images of the person who is handling the phone or some location, some photos of the nearby area. So that really will help someone to track where the phone is, who is the person who is handling the phone. So that's a much advanced solution than the first one. To some level, you can say that the tracking issue has been solved. But there is still a scope of improvement in this. And what is that scope? We all know that our phones are our identities. We do not want someone to get access to our phone or the data inside the phone. So along with this tracking means once you have lost your device, you will also want that someone should not access the data, right? So you need that the phone or the person who is handling the phone should not be able to access the data and the device should be disabled. So this 2092 patent, the second patent that we have cited, is doing the exactly same, that whenever someone is trying to access the phone in the scenario of device getting lost, theft, it will give some commands and it will disable the access of the phone. So in this way, your phone is tracked, you got some information, plus the other person has been barred from accessing your phone. So that somehow makes the solution complete in itself. So friends, in the last 5 examples, we saw some very basic problems that we face in our daily lives and how people came up with different solutions. Although many of the solutions were incremental, means one step advanced than the previous one. So that now I would like to focus on this word incremental. Why incremental? Because every time when you try to think of a problem, you need not always start from the scratch. Means you need not always identify a very new problem. Problems are already existing. You already need to innovate one step ahead so that the solution or the product that you are making is performing better than what it was performing previously. So here, just for sake of simplicity, we took some examples related to mobile phones only. Although there are hundreds, thousands of other basic issues which we could have discussed and for which solutions can be identified. But just for sake of simplicity, we took some basic examples related to mobile phones. I know after going through these examples, you might be having some questions on some better solutions or anything related to patentability, what a patent is. So I'll request you to please note it down at this stage, or maybe you can message to Mr. Vivek. And at the end, we will take up all your questions one by one. So at the end of the session, we will be having a question and answer session. So please be patient and just note down your questions, or maybe you can message to Mr. Vivek. We can move ahead.
Now that you've seen how to identify problems around you, you will obviously try to think of solutions to solve the problem, because that is where you have just learned that ideas start. But what happens is you would need to check. Now remember, we had seen earlier, novelty is a requirement. Now, when I say novelty is a requirement for patenting, what that means is it should not be known at all before. When you check on internet that I have a solution to a problem that I've identified, and you see that it's already there, somebody has already solved it, do you stop thinking that? Do you think that, okay, I cannot file a patent? No. You will still have some room for building on top of what is already known. You can still show much bigger value to what is already out there, what has already been solved. The next set of examples are to show that some things are very well known, very prevalent, has been long existing, but still how people have created inventions in those known areas with many existing solutions. What is this? This is face recognition, right? Face recognition has been known for a very, very long time. People have identified who is in a photo, where is the face, what is called as segmentation, image segmentation, by which you segment out the face and identify who is the person. This is very, very well known. If you were to identify a problem in face recognition, let's say, and if you were to solve it, can you still get a patent? Considering that it has been there for a very long time, many papers are there, many patents are there, existing solutions are also there. Your laptop can be unlocked using your face. Phone can be unlocked using your face. Is there still chance for identifying a problem and then still solving it? Can there be inventions which apply face recognition in mobile phones? The way you should think is, currently face recognition may have been used for unlocking or maybe for authentication purposes to identify who is using the phone. If that is the only place it has been used, what are the other areas it can be applied by which you can make life much simpler for the user? Has face recognition ever been applied in gallery? You can think in that direction. If you were to apply in gallery, how can it be applied? In gallery, I have so many photos. If I generally go to my gallery to go through the photos, my old photos that I've taken, and I swipe across to see many photos are there. Now, I might be reminded, okay, it has been a long time since I called my friend. I have not spoken to my friend whom I clicked a photo with almost 4 to 5 months back. Considering the lockdown, you may not have met the friend for a very long time. You want to call your friend. What if the phone could identify who's your friend and directly trigger a phone call by just tapping on the photo itself? If you had an icon at the edge of the photo which says, okay, do you want to call this person? Won't that make it much simpler? You don't have to go to the contact, make calls, etc. You're using existing technique itself. Face recognition, like I said earlier, has been there for a very long, long time. But when you apply face recognition in gallery, you're able to see a surprising new effect, which is what? You're triggering a phone call directly from the phone gallery itself to that friend of yours who's there in the photo. This has never happened before. With this, you are saving many steps. You are trying to help the user to avoid multiple steps that he would have performed to actually make a phone call. You would have had to come back, open the contacts, search for the person's name, make a phone call. There's nothing surprising there. But in the gallery, making a phone call, that is a surprising new effect. This, you will still be able to make invention and then file a patent. Now, since we are talking about COVID, we are talking about precautions. One of the main precautions that has been said is using face mask. If you were to observe face mask, people wearing face masks, you should think, can face recognition still apply to face mask? A person wearing a mask, the top portion of the face is visible, bottom part is covered. I still need my face recognition. There are so many applications that have been developed in this world for face recognition where the whole face is visible. Can I still use all of those applications when a person is wearing a mask? How can I ensure that all of these applications function without any failure? That becomes a new channel. This is for you to think, what happens if there is a face mask? How does face recognition work then? We saw about authentication. One common technique in authentication we saw. Face recognition is one way. Another way is fingerprint scanning. The ridge of your fingerprint, using that to uniquely identify a person. This has been there for a very long time. It has been there for more than 40 to 50 years. You go to the ATM, fingerprint scanners are there. Fingerprint scanners have been there even before. For passports, everything, it has been there for a very long, long time. But when fingerprint scanners came to mobile phone, people still found it exciting. People still found that, wow, okay, this phone has fingerprint scanner. I might want to buy this phone. What does that mean? It means that I can still solve many problems that exists when I use fingerprint scanners in mobile phones. The main problem with phones, I wouldn't say problem, but the main design factor with phone is that phones have to be extremely thin. They have to be thin and as light as possible. With that design characteristic, what happens is the home button is very small. That is where the fingerprint scanner was generally placed before. With such a small home button, how do you get the full scan of your fingerprint? Now, remember, for your fingerprint scanning, you would need the whole fingerprint, right? But when you place a fingerprint on the scanner, on the home button of the phone, you only get a very small portion of the photo of the fingerprint. Now, to get a pattern, to think of an invention here, you would have to think as, with this small photo, how can I still accurately identify the person? How can I instantly unlock the phone? Now, remember, when I say fingerprint scanning, the whole reason of using fingerprint scanning is for quickly unlocking the phone. What was there before that was using patterns, using number code, etc. If, let's say, having a small photo is making the process much slower, how can I make it much faster? How can I make fingerprint scanning much faster, even with a small portion of the fingerprint alone? That becomes an opportunity for an invention. Now, will I stop there? Will I simply leave it there? Are there any more problems that you can think of? Again, I'm forced to refer to the current situation of COVID that we are all through, that with COVID, people say that wash your hands very regularly. You need to wash for at least 20 seconds. That is one of the best preventive ways to avoid COVID. Which means what? Your hands become wet. Your fingers tend to shrivel a little. What happens then? Can I still give the same experience to the user? Can I give the same fast unlock? Can I give same accuracy? Or will my phone stop identifying me completely because my hands are wet? This is the current situation. You still have opportunities to create inventions in this field. Same way, you need to identify what are the opportunities for creating inventions. With the current situation, existing techniques, age-old techniques which are used in new phones, but newer challenges that arise because of situation that the person is in, or because of the current existing situation that everybody is going through. How can I still give the same experience? How can I ensure that the unlock is fast, it is still secure, the user does not have to keep putting the finger in all directions, wiping his hand, again putting it back? How can I give that?
Hand gestures. We all have been communicating with each other using these different hand gestures, right? And for specially abled people, hand gestures is the main mode of communication. But can I use these hand gestures while communicating with my electronic devices or maybe any other device? Is it patentable? Let's take an example that I'm communicating with a TV using the same hand gestures. It's still patentable, isn't it? So right now, how you do, you pick up a remote, search for the buttons. Maybe some elderly people are not even able to operate a remote, forget about changing channels. So every time you need to help them, right? So there is certainly an inventive step involved in this, that TV will recognize different hand gestures you make, or say, for example, for each hand gesture, a certain operation is fixed. So this is the inventive step or the new thing that you are trying to bring it out in a boring TV, which was till now only operable either by buttons or by a physical remote. So you see how the age-old technique of hand gestures has been used innovatively in communicating, making different operations with the electronic device. So the main point of taking this idea is we can still use an existing mechanism, an existing thing, but there should be an inventive step involved. Here we saw that there's a new technique of fixing operations with the television. So, and with the help of this inventive step, we can still get a patent. But there is a new challenge associated with it. How the television will identify different people waving at it. For example, you have fixed that the television will recognize your hand. What if your son, your daughter, or your grandfather is also starting to wave at the TV at the same time? How TV will react? So this is still a challenge that I will leave to you guys to think on. We can move next. Handwriting recognition. So we all know that electronic devices are able to identify our writing, cursive writing, or how humans write. This identification is known. Also, when we are typing, when we are messaging someone, the mechanism of prediction is known. Handwriting is known, prediction is known. What can be a new thing? What can I combine these two things to make something really new, really exciting? Let's see. We all type, when we write, we have to write big words. What if I combine the option of giving recommendation to a user and I combine it with my manual handwriting? It's still helping the user in easing the pain of writing a big message. So for example, you have to write intermission. Intermission is having 10 to 11 words. So if I only write INTER and then I just make some line, or if I give some interval, what if the phone automatically identifies what may be the word I'm trying to write based on the length of the line that I draw? So you see how combining the existing known things, how using the already known prediction mechanism, I combined it with the handwriting method, and I gave a very new solution to the user, which may be really helpful in taking notes. You all are taking notes in your classrooms, and especially in this, from the last 3-4 months, most of your classes are online. So this method or such methods will really help you to speed up taking notes, right? But there is a new challenge associated to it. What if I just quickly write small abbreviations? I do not have that time to write full forms. For example, for Prime Minister, I just write PM, or for COVID, I just write C19. Will the phone be still able to identify it? If yes, how? It is a challenge for you to think of how you can come up with this problem of solving or giving predictions for small abbreviations. Let's move ahead.
Now we've seen in the previous example that a combination of two ideas, we can still have a patent around it. We can still make an invention. Now this, if you recall, we had said earlier, when you consider obviousness, we had said that we had seen that combination is difficult to be shown as an, or combination may be considered as obvious. So is there a difference? Are we saying opposite things? No. What we see is that, let's say, if I take another example, that burst mode in camera is well known. What is burst mode? I open the camera, I point at the scene, and when I press the capture button, in a short span of time, within quick span of time, a burst of photos are taken. Many photos are taken. This was primarily used for a very long time when you are capturing some scene where there is an event, where there is a very fast action happening. Like in this example, there is a person who's jumping in the ski, or you are capturing somebody who's dancing. You may not know what is the correct pose. You may not have the time to get the pose correctly. So you would use the burst mode in camera. Burst mode has been there in cameras for a very long time. SLR cameras have had, mobile phone cameras, they've had from the beginning itself. Now, what if I combine burst photos and GIF video? If the output were to be GIF video. Now remember, combinations are difficult to pattern. But if I were to give the combination a new effect, a surprising new effect on the mobile phone, that I don't need to really click the capture button. All I need to do is keep pointing the camera at the action. What the camera will do is it will find out that there is a fast action that is happening. A small child who's smiling. It will capture some photos before that has happened and after, and stitch it together to give you a very nice GIF video. Now, this combination is not simply combining two, but using an existing technique, combining with a GIF video, which is very well shared. These days, everybody likes to share GIF videos online. On WhatsApp, people share GIF videos. So if I were to get a GIF video, which is very exciting, which looks very nice, and also I don't need to really capture it, because remember, capturing an event is very difficult. You cannot capture it at the right moment. If the phone were to automatically do it for you, capture some frames which looks very cute, and the user will share it to a lot of people, that will look very nice, right? So this is the surprise. This is the surprise element which can be shown to show non-obviousness. Now, as with the previous examples, we are not leaving it here. We are giving you a little more to think on. What can be used from the burst mode to do something else completely? Here we have seen the example of GIF. Can we do something else? We have so many photos which are taken in a short span of time. What else can be done? This is for you to think. Now, we understand that with so many examples, with so many thoughts, you will have your own questions. Like Neelmani mentioned earlier, please feel free to post your questions on the chat. We do have a session at the end where we can answer your questions relating to the presentation, and we will be glad to take up some more points based on your questions. Now, we have seen so many examples. We have seen that it is possible to still invent, think creatively to get a patent. The first step of getting a patent is to write a disclosure of invention. Now, what is a disclosure of invention? Like the word disclosure means what? You have to disclose in entirety what is it that you are thinking about your idea. What is it that you have thought of? This is the first step. Now, when I say first step, it's very important that you have this thought of, because you need to be clear about what is already known. In all the previous examples that we showed you, we have tried to reference it with what is already known. This is a crucial part of getting a patent. It is called as prior art. Prior, you have come up with invention. You need to think about what is already known, because with the previous examples, you would have already seen, the more that you know, the more that you would be motivated, the more that you would get triggers to think creatively. Once you have already found out what is already known, it is very important that you link your solution, your way of solving the problem that you have identified with what is already known. With that, you will be able to show a much bigger impact. Like, for example, the burst mode with GIF that we saw. if I were to search on internet of what is already known, I would search for GIF, or a GIF video is already known. Have people taken multiple photos in a sequential manner? Oh, this also is very well known. How do I still project the problem statement as bigger? The problem statement should have been that by the time I click the photo, the event has already passed. Excuse me. I've opened the camera. I have pointed it at the scene. But by the time I click the capture button, the event is already passed. The child has stopped smiling. How do we still show the problem statement and show the invention is much bigger? You need to show where am I applying the invention. It is in the camera, which means phone cameras, there is a problem that by the time I click the capture button, the event has already passed. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because there is a delay. And if I were to show the problem statement, connect with what is already known, that burst photos are already there, which means the technology exists. I am proving that the technology already is there to enable my invention. Next step, you will need to think of what are the different devices, what are the different applications for your invention. Is it only applicable for phones? Can it be applied in other areas also? If so, what are the different scenarios that you can think of to apply your invention? For example, we saw in the earlier use case the hand gesture, waving at the TV. When I wave the hand at the TV, that leads to, say, selecting a channel. Is it possible to have the waving gesture at the phone front camera? Can I do something else with it? Of course, I don't watch TV on the phone, so I don't need to do anything with the channel. The applications will be different on the phone. I have a video call happening right now. If I were to wave at the camera, can I switch from presentation to video mode? These are the different ways you can think to apply the same idea in different devices, and you will be able to make your disclosure stronger. More than devices, you can also think of who are the different users, potential users for your invention. Now, remember, a problem is not limited to just one person. A problem is applied to different kinds of people. When I say different kinds and types of people, what I mean to say is you have a student, you have a professor, you have a person who works in a company, you have a homemaker, you have a child. Different sets of people. They are all your potential customers. How would they see the invention? How would they use your idea? A child waving at the TV would be different from a grown-up waving at the TV. Right? So think of it from different angles. Think of it from different use case scenarios and try to give as many examples as possible. And also try to give different kinds of flowcharts to show how your invention will perform, how the steps are performed, which will make the invention very, very clear to anyone. Now, if you were to look at, say, for example, the photo, the selfie idea, where you are making the face features much better by removing blemishes or removing wrinkles, it will be a good idea to give a flowchart. The flowchart could be that I take a selfie, I use an AI model to identify what are the defects in the photo, and then I apply some correction algorithms to correct the photo, and then the photo is shown to the user. These are the steps. Show in the form of flowchart each step, each intermediate step. Also make many flowcharts by which you can show a lot of details in the disclosure by which people will understand the invention much better. Moving to the next slide.
Okay, friends. Now you have a DOI with you. Means you have captured all the parts, important parts, means different solutions to the problem statement that you are trying to solve. You have captured it in one document. But then the question of how to get a patent still needs to be answered. Although we'll be having a separate sessions for how to get a patent and getting into the details of filings, but just to have a touch base on this, once you make a DOI, you need to file it with the patent office. By filing, what I mean to say is you need to submit your disclosure to a patent office. The disclosure can be either a provisional specification or a complete specification. So the difference between two is more or less like in complete specification, you need to fill all the details with the claim part. Claim part is important. Claim means what you are really claiming in the invention or what is really the novel part of the invention. But if you have less time and you need some more time to develop your idea, to check the feasibility of a product, you will do a quick PS filing. So we'll capture these details in our next coming sessions. So just understand that you have filed your provisional or complete specification with the patent office. So from the date you submit your application to the patent office till 18 months, it needs, after 18 months, it will get published. Means at the 18th month or before, your invention will be visible to the world. You can go online to the patent office portal and anyone can access the patent disclosure. Then the processing of this DOI or the patent that you have submitted starts at the patent office. Means the patent examiner will start searching what you have documented, whether it is novel, whether it is obvious, whether it has some utility. All these steps that we discussed in the initial part of the session, that whatever document you have submitted needs to fulfill the patentability criteria. This all happens at the patent office end, which is called as patent examination or patent prosecution. And if the patent office feels that your invention satisfies all the criteria of getting a patent, then approximately around 3 to 4 years of your submission of the document, you get a grant of the patent. So you see this timeline, which captures all the major parts of a life cycle of your patent till grant. Although the patent exists for 20 years, but we have just captured this to give you an idea, give you an impression of what to do with what you do once you have made a DOI, how to proceed, and what are some major steps involved in it. Don't worry, we'll capture this in detail in the coming sessions. We'll go in depth of filing patents in one geography, how to do a PCT filing, all those things that you have heard about patents, that will be dealt in depth in the next sessions. Yeah, we can move ahead.
Now we at Samsung Bangalore, we have been filing patents. We are one of the leading patent filing companies in India. And you have also seen what is patent and what is the patent filing process. We file for inventions that are created in our Bangalore R&D center, and we file it with the Indian Patent Office here in Chennai. And our achievements, our IP achievements, have been well recognized by the industry as Zinno Award for Great Place to Innovate, a National IP Award in 2015 as well as 2018. We also won the CII IP Award in 2017. And even at Asia level, we won the Asia IP Elite Award for the best mobile and telecom IP team in Asia. We are also fortunate to have one of the world's leading IP strategists to lead our team. Lakshmi, he leads our team, and he's set the vision and strategy for IP for Samsung R&D Bangalore. Now that we're coming to the close of the session, let's just do a quick recap of what we have seen. Dr. Alok explained to you as to why patent creation is important, beyond publication, beyond beyond what universities do, why patent creation is important for organizations from an innovation perspective. We also saw what is a patent. We have spoken so much about patent. By now, I hope you'll have a small hint of what is a patent, and it is no longer just a concept, but something that you can perceive, that you can imagine, that is within your reach, that you can actually achieve. We also took you through some examples to show what is patentability. How is it that some ideas are patentable, some ideas are not? We gave you examples as to how you can make the idea to be patentable. We also gave you examples as to how to be creative when it comes to identifying problem solutions and as well as solving the problem in creative ways. We also explained to you as examples what is obvious, how to make an idea inventive and non-obvious. Now, these are some of the points that we have gone through. We hope you have a lot of questions that we could answer. If you do have, please put it at the chat. Now remember, we've also given you some questions to think on. This is for you to work yourself. You can do it at your home. And we saw face recognition. We left some question for you with the COVID situation, people wearing masks, how we can still have ideas around it. With fingerprint, people washing hands very frequently. How can I make the fingerprint scanning still efficient and faster? You have hand gestures, a family sitting in front of the TV, everybody is waving at the TV. How can I still solve problems that still exist? We saw example of handwriting recognition. Can I still expand abbreviations and give new ideas in handwriting recognition? With burst shot, is there something else that I can do? Is it just videos? Can I do something else with the photo? Can I edit the photo? Can I make the photo much better with the burst shot? These are some questions that we have left for you to think on. And these are just examples, like I said. You should also do your research to check what is already there. And that's the starting point. Thank you. Now, if you have questions, we can take some questions.
Yeah, in fact, this is a very great session, Sujit and Nilmani. So really very great. And I hope our audience must have many ideas and they can translate and they can think how you have demonstrated and given some hint that it is not necessary that you start from the beginning or from the scratch, but surrounding us from already existing, how can we think differently and how can we go for the patent and idea creation. So really a very great session, very great session. I appreciate this. And I think in the chat box, there are multiple questions. So I'm not sure if Vivek is following, but our volunteers are there who will be reading some of the questions and we can answer them. So once again, thank you very much, and let us see what are the questions coming up from the audience.
Thank you, everyone. I could see a lively debate that was going on in the chat section, and a lot of questions. We could actually see that the session has sparked a few curiosity within a lot of people. So I'd like to take you through a couple of questions that I could gather that would be relevant for our discussion. So a lot of people, including Mr. Sri Kumar and Mr. Sri Devi S, they've been asking questions about prototyping, or the question is like whether it is mandatory to build a prototype before filing a patent application. That's one of the questions that has come up. I think Sujit or Nilmani can probably walk you through that.
A prototype is not necessary. You don't need to have a working example to be filed as a patent, depending on the field of invention, of course. But if you are aware of all the techniques that could make your invention possible, it is sufficient if you can explain that in detail. by which anyone should be able to make your invention or anyone should be able to build your invention. If you have explained that in detail, that is sufficient. Prototype is not required as such. A working prototype is not required as such.
Thank you, Sushit, for that. I think I'll put up another question. This has been asked by multiple people, so I'm guessing this is a common theme that everyone is concerned about. And that's about whether the patent granting authorities do they actually consider the basics of probable damage to the environment by the user when he's applying for a particular patent? Or let me word it in another way. Are there any regulatory concerns or any environmental concerns that when a patent is being examined, the issuing authority looks into?
To straight away answer, it is very clear. Like I mentioned, statutory matters. It is clear that any invention which will be harmful for the environment, any invention which is harmful to human beings, animals, will not be given a patent as such. But having said that, let's say if it is a chemical process, if it is a chemical process which has an advantage, then yes, the advantage is what is generally showcased. Whether they do check for environmental impact of those things, no, the patent office will not check for the impact of such techniques. But if it is harmful, if it is very clear that it is harmful for the environment, for human beings, animals, no, it will not be given a patent.
So just to add to this, so there are clear guidelines in the patent manual that what can be patented, what if the subject matter falls within this area, it can be patented. If, for example, if it is related to atomic energy, nuclear energy, individual cannot patent it. So patent office will look for first the statutory requirements, and then if it is falling within these things. Otherwise, patent office won't think other things, whether it will harm the environment or not as such.
Thank you, Sujit and Nilmali. I have a couple of more questions that I was able to collect during this session. So a couple of them are regarding the actual processes that wise generally provisional, a provisional application may not necessarily be published by within 18 months of filing, or how much time does it generally take for results of our patent application, or the concerning timelines, why does it take 3 or more years to get a patent, given that within 3 or 4 years, the idea itself might go obsolete? Any comments on that?
I think the question, there are multiple parts of the question. One was about publication. The publication, like Nilmani had explained in the slides, generally it happens by itself 18 months from the first filing, which means if it's a provisional filing, after you filed a complete specification, from the first filing onwards, that the time starts, and within 18 months it is, after 18 months it is published. But sometimes applicants can also request for early publication once you have filed. That is also possible. And in fact, that is one of the strategies that were used for making the grant process faster. That is the second part of the question, that why does it take so much time? Right? No, we wouldn't complain about patent office as such, but we wouldn't be genuine in saying. But what we should think of is that it has historically it had taken much more time before. The backlog, there was a backlog with the patent office before. It used to take 7 to 8 years before. And patent office during the last 3-4 years, they have hired many patent examiners, new patent examiners, and they have been speeding up the process. In fact, they have many ways by which you can speed up process. There's something called as expedited examination, which startups can use, and which they can benefit from for getting quick grants. We heard recently that many inventions are getting granted within 1 year. So don't worry about the timeline, is what I would say. There are ways by which you can make it faster. You can try to get it done faster. It is becoming much better than before. 3 to 4 years is not exactly an average, but what is generally seen. We can get it much faster.
Okay, I'll just walk us through a couple of more questions. Both of them are related to filing of patents. So Mr. Radhesham Rai has come up with a question that if I have only one idea for patenting, is it possible to patent the idea, and what is the rule for such patenting? And I just club this question with another question. What is the best way to file a patent as an individual, is there any third-party company that can help you with that? And is there any ecosystem that can help you with that?
The first question was about a single invention, just a single.
If you just have an idea about patenting, is it possible to file it, or what is the rule about patenting such ideas? I'm guessing this is more to do if you have a concept developed in your mind and you do not actually have the nitty-gritties worked out. Can you still go ahead with filing a patent?
Like we mentioned earlier, you have to give as much details as possible. That is there for the invention. There is a requirement also. There is something called as an enablement requirement, where you have to provide sufficient details by which there will not be any doubts in a person's mind as to how the invention will function. If it is too imaginary, if it looks very abstract, and if it looks like a mere idea alone with no basic underlying points, then no, it is difficult to get a patent. That's the first question. Second question was about, as an individual, what I can do to get a patent, right? How to connect with a third party or somebody.
Is there an ecosystem that helps you with that?
Definitely. So there are, if you let's say again, I would give an example of a startup. Indian government has also given a list of people that you can work with. There are patent facilitators whom you can use, who can help you to file patents. DIPP has actually published. You can go to the website. You can search. There are people whom you can work with. That is assuming you are an individual and things like that. If you're a company, then there are many firms who help you. There are agents who will help you to file patents. You need to work with agents. That would be better, because like Dr. Alok had also explained, lawyers who write patents, who help you to draft patents and file patent applications. It's a process, right? It starts with filing. There is an examination. There is a examination report that comes. You have to respond to it. There are timelines. Many things have to be managed. There are filing fees. We'll get to this in the later sessions. Maybe you'll have more clarity when we explain those points.
A small comment on the first part of the question, that if you have some doubts about whether you should proceed for patenting or not, but you have the concept, you can quickly do a provisional filing, and then you get a good amount of 12 months to explore your invention, check the market feasibility. So this is a good provision that Indian Patent Office and US Patent Office gives you, that you quickly do a PS filing and then gain some time to check the feasibility of your invention. So maybe this provision can be used.
Thank you, Sujit and Nilmani. I think that's about it in terms of the questions that I could collect from this session. I'll hand it over to the organizers for taking it forward.
May I add some few comments, Dr. Naveen? So first of all, very thanks Sujit and Nilmani for presenting so lucidly. And I hope that if the audience has got the bigger picture, I think we focused on the first part of it, which is, you identifying a problem, what is to look into it. And some ideas have come in your mind and you want to see whether this is patentable or not. So from that idea, you have to go and work little bit details, and that becomes like an innovation, right? After you have checked all non-obvious part and detailing of it, then you reach to an innovation. Still, it is not an invention, and patent is about invention. So from idea to this innovation, and then there is a lot of steps that is involved in detailing it out, because what may appear to be innovation to you, but eventually when you go through prior art searches and obvious decisions, what you thought versus what the lawyer thinks and some of the other examples, you may not have been able to search all the innovation or invention that have been there in the site by doing just Google searches, and this may not be possible. You have done your homework, but still there is a reality. So from innovation to invention is another step. Some part of it is in your hand, some will be in the legal and patent office. I think that's what we discussed. Our focus today was more to talk the first part and come to a good disclosure of invention, taking from idea to innovation to invention, and you have disclosed, you have put claims that these are the novelties, and I claim I differ from the previous solution these ways, and therefore you captured. Remaining steps, I'm sure we'll be able to talk next time. The second point I wanted to highlight is that you have been writing papers, and we talked about it in the beginning. I want to again contrast between the two so that you appreciate the point. In universities, in academia environment,
I think Dr. Alok has got disconnected.
Yeah, I think Alok is having difficulty on audio line.
and the methods and the tech. But for patent standpoint, yeah, this is an innovation, there is an invention, but they are not detectable. What's difference? Because as Sujit mentioned, that the outcome of all three may be similar. So yes, that's a publishable material, but maybe from patent standpoint, you need something more. That's great, you have some techniques, and that is where technologies come. Would it be building a new applications? Would you go to another device? Would you take these to different applications clusters? Would it be on device versus cloud? These technology dimensions, when you fuse with your techniques and the theories that you are building with the practice, that makes it invention. So this dimension, I think you need to appreciate. How do you know that this is something that I should publish or I should patent? Yeah, if you publish, there is a time during which you can still file patent. If you file patent, you can still publish. That's possible. So you have to follow that order. But if you lapse that time and you have published, then you may not be able to patent. We talked about complete specification versus provisional specification, and we talked about incomplete and complete part. The reason that comes is timeline, because if I have built something and I'm going to commercialize it, then I better protect my intellectual asset, because once that goes into the product and it becomes public, then we do not know who has filed first, right? Another person has also can be claiming, and it becomes confusing. It becomes difficult. Therefore, we give this provisional specification at times because of timeline, and you are still working, but it is so important invention for you that you can do this provisional specification, and subsequently there is a timeline by which you have to do the complete specification. So all these understanding of difficulties and sensitivities are already taken care by the ecosystem, by the process. Yeah, some are longer, some are shorter, and everybody's trying to work towards this to make it faster. So I hope you have got the difference between paper and patent, and when to file, which one, and how to get it. My third point is, we gave simple examples and went into a little bit complex, and with all these assignments beautifully Nilmani and Sujit have presented, you saw many different techniques. So you have to understand the key points that are coming there. Those are just examples, and we can have hundreds of them. But I think underlying points need to be understood, and you have to work on them. You saw that sometimes identification of problems itself can give you the edge to file, because nobody else has seen that as a problem. Sometimes the solution has been there, but you are building on top of it. This can be done by the same organization. They file sequence of patents, like cluster of patents, first one, then second, then third, because they are building first on one device, then maybe another device, maybe two together, another technique, another applications. You can build that way. or it may come from a different sources that somebody has filed, another person is trying to build on top. So you can build on top, you can build parallel, another way of doing the problems. And use pre-processing has been there, right? In the selfie, you talked about AI methods to find the best one. That's a kind of pre-processing. But he also talked about post-processing, that there is a machine learning technique that you can apply to remove the blemishes. So yes, that identification, pre-processing, post-processing, and the processing itself can be things. So you need to be clear, where is your novelty? Is it in the pre part? Is it in the processing part? Is it in the post part? And that can again give you an examples of things. And we gave a lot of examples from Samsung's own, like for example, Note is a great product for us. Handwriting, we're trying to make sure this whole handwriting becomes an heritage thing. You know, we have forgotten to write. Fine, we may not write pages after pages. We used to do in our childhood, you know, all the notes in handwritten form. We may not do that now, but it is still, checks are signed and something that you want to send to somebody you love in handwritten form. And we talked about intermission. So I write inter with a big dash that tells you maybe mission is the word to put. Or I write small and then I say interval or internal. So that can be predicted, and therefore it's a great idea. And then there are many other examples from different sources. So that's a great thing to have it. At the last part of it that came as a question, so prototypes and is it necessary or not? But I think that's not the point. You have to prove that what you have built is not just in the air. As I said, ideas. People have ideas. And that can be in the air, left and right. I can start day in the morning, by evening, I'll do 50 ideas. But that's not inventable, and that's not, cannot be filed as invention. So that intermediate process of idea to innovation to invention, in some form you have to capture, whether it is diaries, you know, even at times when it's so different, there is a possibility that same time two patents on the same topic are reaching the patent office. In that case, you know, to be able to understand who has substance, who is the real first inventor, they may ask for some of these details, and you have to go back to diaries and notes and POCs and prototypes. So yes, it is not absolutely necessary, but it gives you the confidence, first of all, to file and see your invention. It's a good practice. But if not that, the algorithms flow, the stacks, the diaries, the notes, you need to substantiate in case of such cases that, you know, it is you who did first and you have more claims and your inventions are superior to others. And accordingly, the patent could be granted during that examination process. They will ask questions in that phase. So I think these are few points that I wanted to also highlight. I hope it's been very useful for you, and you know, we can build upon it. And thanks again, Vivek, for coordinating and asking the questions. I thank my IEEE team to allow this to happen. You know, even though I've been talking about it, it may be enthusiastically, you know, done and conducted, but the whole ExeCom has supported because we did in the paper writing, but not in the patent. So I thank them all. Dr. Naveen has been very helpful. And with that note, I will hand over to Dr. Naveen. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Alok Nath, for highlighting again and summarizing and giving supplementary and complementary information regarding the same. However, I believe there are few more questions from panelists and the viewers. So I would request Anusa and Party if they have any other questions. And since we have a couple of minutes more, so we can take it and we might discuss. So Anusa,
Please continue.
Any question?
Yes, sir. There were a few questions about asking if they have a prototype and if it is harming the environment, who will check and validate for how their prototype is causing a problem to the environment, and what would it be based on? How would be the criteria for a panelist for the patents to check and proceed further?
I think this was answered already. No, you did not. This question was answered, I believe. Sujit, any additional question you find in this?
This was answered earlier. Anything harmful, directly harmful to the environment, human beings, animals, is statutory matter, will not be allowed. This was there.
Yeah, this was answered.
So maybe I will list couple of things if that is okay, Naveen sir.
Sure. Please, go ahead.
Now, there are few questions directly on the examples given in there. One question was, though there are inventions about prevention of the screen breakage, screen still breaks. Why is it so, right? And there are other questions on the charging side, saying that solar charging is already possible. So there are comments of that nature. But before I ask Sujit or Nilmani to answer, I just wanted to highlight one point that is kind of troubling me. There are comments saying that is it a Samsung brand presentation, Samsung phone presentation? So I just wanted to answer that on behalf of the Communication Society, that like Dr. Aloknath has already explained, this intent of this session is to bring in the expertise of the community, helping the community, filing the patent through examples that has already been worked upon, right? So all this team has done a great work and they are exemplifying them only to illustrate the fact what is patentable, what is not patentable, and how shall you go about it. So please take it from that spirit. There is everything that has been covered is with the already patent number granted in there, and the team has really worked and they are taking time off to share their knowledge so that it can help you. So I would request you to take it in this spirit, learn from it and apply in the field of work that you are performing. So I thought that it is important that as a COMSOC member, I clarify this to everybody. I have responded into the written chat, but I thought I will clarify this position. So Dr. Alok or anybody, if you want to add anything on top of what I said, please do. And after that, maybe Sujit, you want to answer this few other left questions.
No, I think you have said absolutely right. And since it is a first presentation, and since we know that what are the works and what are the details of it, it is in the broader interest of the community to share, what is the patent and how to file first patent. The examples have been taken from various sources. It is not about Samsung's. So definitely it is not that we want to, promote anything for Samsung phones to the student community or the young researchers. There are other mechanisms to do that. But yes, we are proud of some of the achievements and people have done a hard work. So give them a big round of applause and take the essence of what they have been communicating. That's very, very important. We are already well recognized as Samsung, so we don't need to use this forum for that purpose. It is more, please try to understand, it is more for you to benefit, and I hope the other community could respond to that.
Thank you, Subhash. The question was about, I know that we had a lot of examples of mobile phones, so maybe that is why, but there was a question on breakage of phones. Now, this is a good example that somebody has taken up to go beyond what phone companies can do, because see, this is a multi-field problem. Phone breakage can be solved as a mechanical invention. It can also be solved as a process or a chemical process, the way the phone displays are manufactured. So that leaves a lot of room for many researchers from different fields to come together to solve a problem. That can also be considered. So it is not, you should look at the examples as triggers. These are just mere examples. In breakage itself, you can have different fields to come together.
I have one small question from my side, and many time, in fact, in many such gathering, it was asked also, and people might have this, but yes, it is from my side. Most of the examples or many examples that you projected, it is based upon software. For example, you take face recognition, handwriting recognition, and so on. And then we said that, okay, there are different ways to do it, different technique you can apply AI or so and so on. But we know that in India, we cannot file perhaps the software-based patent. So what is your suggestions, and what you have to say about that? That for AI, if we are filing patent, so what's supposed to be different from this software part, or whether we should mix and having the combination of software and hardware? And if it is a hardware, then as you are saying that prototype is not necessary in the beginning, then how can we go about this? Thank you.
What you have asked is a very big subject altogether that many people have debated on. So we will not get into the debate part of it. We will just try to address the question as it is about software inventions can be patented in India or not. Straightforward, if a software code as such is not a patent matter, which means if somebody has written a code on face recognition, taking the same example itself, that code cannot be patented as it is. That is under copyrights. But the functionality of the code, what the code performs when it is applied in a device, that can be patented. So your second part of the question was how much details have to be given, whether we need to give a prototype, whether we have to give it in combination. We have to at least explain what are the hardware elements that will achieve this functionality, which means what? I have a camera which will capture an image. I will have a processor, I will have a GPU which in real time will segment the image, will identify what are the features in the image. I will have the code stored in the memory which will perform all of this. Maybe there is a server that is involved which will have a database of photos which need to be checked with. So different hardware elements which are required. If there is, let's say, a new sensor that is going to be included, which will check the depth of where the photo is, you can include those details. You can include as much hardware details as possible in your invention on how the software gets enabled to perform the functionality. If you provide that, you can still get patents in India. There is nothing wrong in it. Even I would actually suggest Lakshmi can also add his points on this.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Software is patentable in India. It is not correct to say software is not patentable in India. Sujit pointed out a computer program per se is not patentable. That means the code alone is the expression which is covered under copyright. Software is no more than a process step. These processes can drive technical application, or they could be financial processes, or they could be social processes. The Patent Act in India says if the process is a financial process, it is not patentable because it falls under business method. If the process results in a technical application, whatever we are talking about, a hardware, a known hardware on which software steps are being used to perform a new function, yes, it is useful to the society and it is patentable.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other question from a panelist? Any question you have? So you can.
Yeah, there are quite a few other, but I thought I will pick one if Sujit could answer that. So one question has been that I was expecting to learn how to write the first patent, but most of them has been only examples. So maybe you, in 2-3 lines you want to summarize to answer this, it would be helpful.
So with the title itself, it was about how to write a first patent. If you have to write a first patent, you will need an idea. You will need a trigger. You will have to find out how you can make. I think there is some disturbance. So if you have an idea, you will need to project it correctly in the first place. You will have to explain correctly all the details in the idea. We have only touched upon that level. Like Dr. Alok also mentioned, even Professor Naveen, everyone mentioned that we have, I think there are more sessions planned where you'll get more points as to how to write a patent itself. That you will get more clarity on that in the next sessions. We have just given a trigger point for now, for you to start thinking. For someone who does not know how to come up with an idea itself, how to be creative, we have just given the examples for that.
So maybe at this point, either Sujit and Nilmani, why don't you explain a little bit of the document, that the patent and the claim structuring, just for the sake of completeness of the answer.
So patent application, the most important part of a patent application is what is called as a claim. A claim, it's written in a certain way, it's written in a slightly legal language, and that is where you will see the steps of the invention are written as such in the broadest way possible. Which means, if I were to give an example, let's say if your invention is about making tea. How do you make tea? You first light your gas stove, and you place the vessel on top of the gas stove. You pour water, you wait for it to boil, you put tea leaves, and you put other condiments, you put milk, you put sugar. This is the overall step of making tea. But if I were to write a claim for it, I said earlier that it has to be in the broadest sense possible. Let's say tea making was not known at all before. You will have to identify what are the essential steps, what are the non-essential steps. Now, in making tea, somebody could have black tea, somebody may not need sugar, somebody may not want the condiments. So the broadest steps would be just boiling water, putting tea leaves. That's the broadest step that is required to make tea. So you would claim just that alone. Same way for your invention, you will have to identify what are the essential steps, what are the non-essential steps. Cover only the essential steps for your claim. This is in your patent document. That's the most important section, although it comes right at the end. And apart from this, a patent document will also have many diagrams, different diagrams. Now remember, in our presentation, when we talked about disclosure of invention, we asked you to include as many flowcharts as possible, as many user scenarios are possible, as many use cases in different devices as possible. These are all included as what are called as embodiments. Embodiments mean different ways by which your invention can function. These are all included as examples. Flowcharts are given. These are also included in the patent application. Flowcharts, different diagrams. If let's say if it's a user interface, you would give line diagrams which show how it performs, different steps of it. They're all labeled and they're described as you would describe in a paper, the way you would describe in a paper with a referencing to a figure. You will see if you open any of the patents that we have given in the presentation, any of the numbers, if you search on Google, just put the number on Google, you will get the patent document as PDF. If you open it, you will see minimum 30 to 40 diagrams which explain how the invention functions. Apart from this, a patent document will also have details like who are the inventors, who is the assignee, which is the company that has filed, and some details like what is the classification of the patent, which tech area does it come under. So these are some of the details that go into the patent. So think of yourself as an inventor and try to think of what details can you give to make the patent application the best that is possible. The best patent application will have the best claim. Best claim means broadest claim, by which it becomes very difficult for somebody to work around. That becomes the best claim. Second, does my patent have as many details as possible, as many diagrams as possible, as many examples as possible? Because what you're doing is you can also avoid somebody else filing a patent over something that has been left out. So cover as many areas as possible. Include all your collaborators, include all your inventors in your patent application. So these are some main points that you can think about while having your patent drafted. Like we have also earlier, there was a question on whom to connect with for filing a patent. We have There are different firms who do this work. You can connect with them. There are facilitators for starters. Government has provided for a very low cost. You can get it filed. And we also told you that patents has to be filed in different countries. In India, it is Indian Patent Office, and US, you have the US Patent Office. If you have created the invention in India and the inventor is an Indian resident, it is important, it is required, it's a legal requirement to file the invention in India first. Or if you're filing directly abroad, you have to take a permission from the patent office. This is another requirement everybody has to remember. So these are some just major points on if you're going into the procedural aspect of it. We have only thought about the idea creation for now. We can, when we have the subsequent sessions, maybe these points can be included. Thank you.
Thank you, Sujit. Thank you very much. I think but there is a question from Dr. Ganeshan. So Dr. Ganesh, I think Ganna, you can ask a question. You can unmute and ask the question, please.
Yeah, thanks, Professor Naveen and Sujit and others. This is a very good session. Thanks for that. It's I don't know whether it's the right meeting for asking this question, but yeah, you already just alluded about this point of doing professional filing in India and for abroad. So can we do simultaneous professional filing in India, or what they call it is PTP, which is for applicable for multiple countries? Like you can do it for Europe, or you can do it for India and US. There's different combination of countries. I think up to 3 or 4 countries can be included in one professional filing. Can you give some information on that?
I think I missed your voice, but I'll try to rephrase from whatever you said at the end. Are you talking about the PCT filing in multiple countries?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I meant correct. PCT filing. Yes.
So, I think your voice broke in the middle. That's why I couldn't get your question. But anyway, the PCT filing, it's again a facilitation process. That means it is not a granting authority. So the reason you would file a PCT is that, let's say if you file, we told you about provisional filing or a complete filing. That is the first filing that happens. That is called as a priority date.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, from that priority date, within 1 year, you can file in foreign countries. Okay, this is called the Paris Convention route.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, sometimes, it may be required. Now, the reason you have the PCT filing is that there are some advantages of filing a PCT also. It's not just for, simply a facilitation center, but it also gives you 30 to 31 months from the first filing, which means what you get an additional 18 months in addition to the 1 year time to file in foreign countries. But you still need to file in foreign countries to get a grant in those countries.
Yeah, but in the rule in US now they changed it to first to file, right? I think the professional probably is not counted in that for the priority date.
All the countries follow the first to file. Provisional is counted as a first filing. If you have filed a complete specification for your provisional filing, then you have a patent application. Then you have a patent application that has been filed. Provisional is what is considered as a first filing.
But typically, professional will have not the full detailed claims and other things, right? It's mostly like a simple idea that you want to capture first. And then the full filing will have all detailed diagrams and Lakshmi, please, you can. Yeah.
Yes. As Sujit mentioned, PCT is a single window system for patent examination. That's all. It is not a grant authority. If you have only the framework of the idea, you are still making attempts to implement the idea fully into your file application in India. This is just to get a priority date for your invention. Within 12 months, you can prepare a PCT application and use the single window system. But what happens is, to make a PCT application, you still need the complete specification. Provisional specification will be having only the nature of the invention. It will not have the nature and the way of performing the invention. It won't be there. So you will still need to make a complete specification even to make a PCT filing. So when you are reaching 7th or 8th month, that is the good time to prepare a complete specification. Make a complete specification in India. File a complete specification in India. and then in parallel file a PCT application. If you want to avoid filing a complete specification in India, you can still do that. Take a priority on the provisional specification, but you should wait for 6 weeks time, because the PCT is an international application. You cannot quickly file a PCT application as soon as you file a PS, a provisional specification in India. So wait for 6 weeks time. That is equivalent to obtaining a foreign filing permission from the Indian Patent Office. Then once you have the complete specification prepared, make a PCT application form, use the Indian Patent Office as the receiving office to make the PCT application. For 5 or more countries, you can just designate. This is not filing, this is called designating countries in the PCT application. Even if you file a patent application in India, India will check for novelty, inventive step, what are the prosecution requirement, completeness of the application, those all they will check. The same thing is done in the centralized body, that is the PCT search authority or the examination authority. India is also a search authority. You can choose India also as a search authority and get it done. This is one route to even expedite your grant in India. It is a cost effective, time saving, plus very effective route also. I hope.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think there is no question, or we have also completed our time allocation, right? So I once again, on behalf of all ComSoc team, I thank all the audience who have been here with us for almost 2 hours, from 10 to 12, and so and supported this session. And I must thank Dr. Alok team from Samsung, who have been really very kind enough to spare themselves and give a lot of idea to our audience. So we are really needed. We need this type of session, and definitely in the future also we will plan, and maybe a longer session can be planned further with the support from you people. Thank you very much. And last but not the least, I would like to say the audience that next week again, the same time, we have another very important session. Please register for that event, workshop for half a day, Wi-Fi 6 and beyond. Wi-Fi 6 and beyond. So join us next Saturday, coming Saturday, same time, and the same sort of platform. Look for the ComSoc web page. Information is available. Please register for it. So with this, I think thanks to all of you. Our Suvas, anything that you want to say? So thank you very much, and to our volunteer also, I would like to thank very much for this support.
Yeah, thank you, Naveen. The only thing I wanted to say is that there is a feedback form that has been posted. Kindly fill the feedback so that we can learn from the feedback and improve in the next session. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sujit. Bye.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ekant and Shiv Kumar. Wonderful job.